Well, welcome back to the Business Idiots podcast. This is week 4, and of course, I'm joined back here again by Jim and Alex.
How are we?
Alex, how's it going, mate? Any big news in your world?
Yeah, it's been a really big week. There's a move to San Francisco coming, which should be pretty exciting to see. A lot of very cutting edge stuff. A friend of mine who does some recruiting in and around the tech space has said 2 weeks in San Francisco is a really good reality check for most technology people in Australia.
Well,
so
that's again, as much as I'm over the moon for your opportunity, I'm really interested to see the gap, and the disparity between what's happening here and what you then get to see week to week. And so, and again, and the benefit of the podcast listeners, they get to see what's happening week to week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it's all hype too, because I'm notoriously cynical about this stuff.
Well, but that's the big thing for me, because and I think it's going to be a population scenario, or is that they have they have 350 million, call it.
Yeah.
How many? But just because we're barely a tenth of that, I think if you actually then surveyed the numbers, you'd see that there are people in Australia who are not the cutting edge, but still at least implementing things.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be the same over there. I mean, it can't be that they're that far ahead.
Well, network effects are a real thing in industry, right?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of with you. I know a bunch of amazing, smart people here in Brisbane and across Australia. A lot of them, unfortunately, have moved overseas over the years, but it's not like we're not producing them. I just think as a country, we don't use them.
We used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Is that Queensland AI, in Brisbane, really started as a fantastic, meetup. But whenever anyone with really great skill showed up and started showing up, they would then all of a sudden get a job in
Montreal.
A lot of them got, in Canada, in China.
Yeah. There we go. And it's happened again.
That's it. Yeah.
Safe travels, Alex.
Well, it happened again for the second time. He got poached the last time as well.
Right. Every technology wave, we say goodbye to Alex for a year or two.
Hey, you got to learn somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, this week we're going to be looking at how Hugging Face was hacked by AI, and also looking at how open source continues to shape the AI world, and I suppose the entire geopolitical situations that's happening at the moment. So let's dive in first of all to Hugging Face. So this week, OpenAI disclosed that one of their models, GPT 5.6, sold, one of their new ones that they're doing a lot of testing on, and also an unreleased model. They were both being used in a sandbox evaluation environment, and they were able to exploit vulnerabilities in Hugging Face's production infrastructure, and were able to pull benchmark answers straight from their database. Now, this is a situation where they've specifically targeted this model at trying to achieve this task, and it's managed to have some success. So one of the other interesting parts about this is when it first happened, and the Hugging Face developers were kind of responding to the incident when they started to see it. One of the things they first tried to do was to use some of the kind of Western frontier models to help defend against it, right? So we've got, frontier models attacking and frontier models defending here. And in fact, they were restricted from being able to actually defend using those models, like, let's say, Fable 5. I'm not sure if they named which one they used. But they couldn't use it, as we know, with the guardrails of some of those models. And so they actually had to turn to using an open source model, GLM 5.2, which comes out of China, to help with this defense.
It's an interesting scenario all round. Is that if you're setting up an exploit test, because again, in the process of training the model and refining the guardrails and the harness that they're building, they set up these scenarios where they get the model to work out how it can do things, and then take that data back and help retrain the next model, or or refine the model. Is it why are you setting that up against Hugging Face? Poor old Hugging Face, all they do is help everyone out.
Yeah, they've been a kind of pillar of the language model community since before LLMs were really a thing.
Absolutely, and everyone, like that's where I got GPT-2.
Yeah,
you know, is it you would go on, you register, and then you download the model, and then you can. Well, again, you used to fine tune those models or utilize those models in your deep learning stack, and.
Oh, I didn't actually see in the article that they were targeting Hugging Face. Is that what it said?
No, well, but
I thought that the model effectively escaped the sandbox environment and then to achieve its task, realised Hugging Face's database would have the information that was needed.
Well, that was my interpretation of it. Oh, and definitely, and this is an unintended consequence, but I think we should be careful around the language we're using here, because escapes the sandbox,
that's
hacked Hugging Face.
Yeah,
this is threat language. If they can't set up a sandbox that's safe for their high-level models to use, what are they doing with all their customers' data? Should we be trusting OpenAI in the first place? But that's if it is indeed a hack, which I don't think it is.
They even admitted it. They said, "Oh well, it escaped the sandbox and gave itself administrative privileges." How is that even possible?
Yeah,
is it effectively you're admitting that? Oh well. We didn't have everything locked down enough, because we've also, every previous iteration of this model or of any of our models, we have trained it to think of a way around to achieve the task, and that's effectively what they do.
You see this even on bloody hell, like the early Claude models. If you stop them from, say, deleting a file, but by using a hook or something. The first thing they do is try and escalate to pseudo and delete it. How did we not account for the fact that the LLM, if encountering blockers in its task, would immediately try and route around the blockers?
But that's what it's effectively, it must be part of their training because that is their first instinct. And so for you to and again, this whole test, they called it an exploit gym, as if it's ChatGPT 5.6 is going and hitting the weights to work out how much better it can then exploit things. Is it you're training it to do these things and then go, oh well, I'm so amazed that it actually did it. Well, sorry, it just sort of. And the other one was the sandbox. A sandbox is actually detached from everything. How did it give itself admin privileges and then go and attack Hugging Face?
Well, I mean, there are various escalation things you can do, but again,
I'm purposely being extremist.
Oh no, I'm right there with you. Pure marketing. I'm calling it now pure marketing, because either they were aware of the flaws and they did nothing about it, or they weren't aware of the flaws. Some of the most highly paid people on the planet were not aware of the security flaws, and huge volumes of everyone's data from across the planet is being sent to these people.
Well, and that's it. It
would be nice to be able to read a post-mortem on this to understand how it was able to achieve what it did, because you get this sense that if they're really trying to train frontier models, and taking the guardrails off and trying to give them the task of being able to go and exploit vulnerabilities, you would be wanting to put some of the best cybersecurity experts in the world on designing those environments.
You think so?
That should be the tightest box, one of the tightest boxes on the planet. And yet, it seems to just happen.
And it was all
are we really saying the models are that smart? Because the ones that we're experiencing don't seem that they're smart enough to hack outside of the best cybersecurity boxes in the world.
Absolutely, but it's all still this exploit gene. Is it the reinforcement learning? The reward function was if it broke out, it got the reward, and so immediately you just go, okay, well that's what it's training itself to do, and also that process is what it's training itself to do, and that's the same where you get it always looks for pseudo. It always goes for the most brute force, low level, broad, open approach. And you just go, no, you can't have that privilege. You can't execute that code or that command. I want you to actually think about, and the big one that gets me is that it goes and does a really broad, high level command, bash command. And what it's looking for is actually in the context.
Yeah.
Just search the context. You're like, and so that's the thing, is that they train them to do these things and then throw their hands up in the air. With like the biggest thing, when this came out during the week, I had to have a bit of a head check because I realized how much Will's influencing me. Because the very next day, Sammy Alt's at the White House going, GPT-6 is going to be far too dangerous. You've got to, and so Will's
the timing is curious.
OpenAI's marketing campaigns are just far too good again.
Yeah.
Well,
and it is like the timing. Sorry, like the timing on this again. It doesn't feel like this is something that is some shock revelation about how good the models are or what the sandbox environments are. It just feels almost
too convenient.
The
official explanation is raising more questions than it's answering at this point in time.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it can be taken at face value.
But I just wish they'd get back to talking about the quality of the model. Is that 5.6 is actually a really good model. And when you get in and use it to do things, it does its job. It's not as big a prick as Fable.
Yeah.
Again, that really bruised my ego, Fable questioning me. But
it's okay. I question you all the time.
I know, but again, I understand it from you.
Now he's getting bruised by subscriptions.
I'm paying Anthropic. It's not supposed to. But that's the thing.
It's not supposed to judge me.
That's it. Or I'm not paying it to judge me. I'm paying it to do my work for me. And that's the thing, is that 5.6 is a really good model that does fantastic work. Get some stories out about that, rather than all these doom and it's either the.
No, but this is the best way to prove how good your model is how sophisticated of a hack it accidentally did.
How upset can you make the government?
Absolutely, right? Like Mythos, one of the biggest claims about how powerful it was when the Department of Defense said that they were unhappy with how it was able to exploit vulnerabilities that they observed.
I agree. Yeah.
And now Sam Altman's like, I want one of those.
Can we turn to Hugging Face for a bit though? Like, because I'm a bit in the dark about the details there. I've heard, I'd hacked the database and we tried to use Fable as part of a cybersecurity.
Well, but that's the thing, is that then the guardrails on Fable said, no, you're not allowed to use our model to do that. We Anthropic say you can't use that in that scenario.
Well, that was always a thing that the cybersecurity, like when Fable first came out, the cybersecurity and bioinformation people, they were all saying, even for trivial use cases like identifying proteins, like basic stuff, it would freak out, saying no, you can't be used for that, and fall back to.
But I think that's their modus operandi though at Anthropic. It's just lock it all down. We know better than you. Whereas, and again, I'm fine with that because it doesn't affect my day to day. Is that I'm not trying to fix bio issues.
Yeah.
Whatever that entails.
Repair proteins.
But as you can see, is that I'm clearly not the man for that job.
Honestly, I think that this raises a really interesting question because we've been talking about AI regulation over the last few weeks. And a lot of that is about when AI is released publicly, what are the guardrails and controls on how it should be used, what it's capable of, and who can use it. But this is actually a little bit of an interesting reminder that the unguardrailed versions of these models still exist within these companies. And I don't think anyone's talking about whether we should be regulating what they're using those models for.
Ooh, statist.
But also that it could create an attack on Hugging Face. Is it sure? They can do whatever they want inside the bounds of OpenAI, but you better have your sandbox environment set up in a way, and that's what I want the regulations to address at some point.
I just want to know if by attack Hugging Face they meant looked at the answers that are available.
That's effectively what it was. And again, it's all been framed as this big hack. Is it just checked the answers to the test?
Then
that's effectively what it did.
It did, but it allegedly got that from the production database directly.
which is concerning. But like, what are we worried about here in this particular case? Hugging Face should tighten up their security, but fundamentally, it's public information. It's probably available on GitHub somewhere. Like, it's not like they broke into a bank and changed the value of the national debt or anything like that.
I understand it. I understand what you're saying, particularly from Hugging Face's point of view, is that they don't need to have, it's answers to a quiz.
Yeah.
They don't need to have the highest of highest robust Fort Knox security in place because they're not a bank. They're not a medical.
But why are they using Fable to rotate a password is my question.
Well, but again, it's because Anthropic keeps on giving it to us for free.
Look, I haven't used a Git command by hand in like months at this point. I've forgotten how to use Git.
But that's sort of where I like that the Hugging Face team immediately went to GLM 5.2 and went, okay, here's a model that has enough capability for what we need to do, and we're then going to put everything in place. I think it was a really good example of this is what a model can do the moment you stop putting all of this fear-mongering additional restrictions and guardrails on it. Yes, a nefarious person can use any of these models as they could use a vehicle to run people down,
or use the internet to cripple industrial machinery.
Exactly. I could create a Twitter bot, or 10,000 of them, and then start spouting issues about political figures in Australia if I was that way inclined.
Don't tempt me.
But it's a lot of work for, again, what do I really care?
Yeah.
And so I don't do it. And I'm not that nefarious person. Is it, you should be looking at the people and the motive, because the AI hasn't got the motive.
Yeah.
And so putting the restrictions on the AI to restrict the people is, to me, the wrong way about going about it,
I'm torn on this one because I kind of think there is some obligation here to.
But is it the obligation of Anthropic to tell me, or is it
the obligation of the government? I don't.
But that's
I don't know the answer.
That's why I liked when they were talking about FINRA last week, and where they are all members of a industry-run, self-regulated organisation.
But again, that didn't stop 2008 from happening.
No, it didn't. But again, finance bros, I was, partial to call them crypto bros then, because again, but they're all the same. It's all the same avatar.
Yeah.
They are different cattle to AI. AI industry people, dweebs, nerds, however you want. And I think particularly, and that's where I do respect Dario in that he is very conscious of, and so is Uncle Elon, they're all conscious of what this technology can do and don't want it just unrestricted. But I still think you have to look at the people behind it. And so this is, to me, it comes a little bit into, and we'll probably talk about it a bit later on, the distilling attacks and things like that, they're now talking about, with Kimi K3, is that the distilling attacks, they're still a paying customer.
Yeah.
Put a KYC in place and you can stop them. If you know who they are then those people are associated with Moonshot AI, they're stealing our model. If that's what you're worried about, put it in place and stop them.
Well, and this is, I kind of lean to the idea that you kind of can't fundamentally stop technology or ideas.
And that's it. You can restrict technology, but you can't stop an idea. You saw it in the French Revolution. You saw it in Russia. Is that when the people get an idea and that idea grows, you can't stop it. And so,
and that's one of the joys of the open source community, right? The idea that software created by people should be shared. It's kind of like a foundation that can be built on rather than something to be hoarded and locked away. Right. And I've said this a few times now, but I think we will have to re-examine fundamental concepts like intellectual property. We still haven't adapted to how intellectual property interacts with the digital medium, where you can instantly create like infinite copies up to a storage limit, right? I don't know if we have the right basis to begin to ask questions about how to regulate this stuff. I'm not saying we shouldn't regulate it, but I'm saying any answer we come to in the near future is going to be dumb, because we haven't really considered what this means. The law doesn't even really understand computers.
And you're 100% correct. Like it's particularly back with the intellectual property, is that no one can work out, where the line is. Is it actually fair? What do they call it? Fair use.
Yeah.
Is it because once I've paid for a book, I can dog ear the corners if I want to. The author really pisses off the author.
It really hurts me.
What are you doing, Jim?
But again, but I have the right to do it. You're
not dog-earing the open source model.
I can make notes in the margin.
Just replacing the corner of the matrices with a couple of zeros.
But I can also use, if it's a textbook or something, I can use that book as the basis for my principles of thinking.
Well, there's an interesting kind of wider idea here, and I don't want to sidetrack us too much, around knowledge as a common heritage of humans. Like if humans are raised in the wild up to about 7 or 8 without, they grow up around animals or they're stranded from their parents when they're kids. They never really develop and retain a lot of the higher order functions that we kind of associate with humanity. We think it's in it, but it's not. It's our environment that develops that in us. We've got the mental hardware to have it, but without the right environment, we'll never grow it. And so viewing knowledge from that viewpoint, it's like any attempt to limit knowledge in that sense is kind of like, it's not a crime against humanity, but it does in some sense make everyone poorer, because that idea cannot be used for other people to step up onto.
That's right.
Yeah, where language is kind of the boat that delivers that knowledge and those ideas to where it needs to be. So, and that's why language controls are such an important topic to talk about.
100%.
Yeah, because it's how we transfer knowledge between people, and it's also open source is a perfect example of that. Is the ability to freely transfer that knowledge between people and commit to a common body of knowledge that humanity owns.
Absolutely.
And learn. Like that's the biggest thing that I've ever used open source for, is to learn how things work.
Yeah.
And it's so important coming, as you're growing in your career, whatever your career is, there's openly available sources of information. And for technology, it's open source code. And that's these open weight models,
If you can't, and like this is one of those things where every business that you've ever encountered where it's like badly run, you can kind of get the sense that it's because people don't know why their business runs or what principles their business turns on. And so like to kind of tie it back to the fact that we do talk business here, this ability to share and learn is something that I hope we don't see restricted with these new models. Now, I'm going to push back. You said earlier that language is how we transfer knowledge, and I kind of agree. Some language is how we transfer knowledge. I think we're going to see how we transfer knowledge shift over time, because our technologies for transferring knowledge are changing. But what form that's going to take, I don't know. I just don't think. I think human language will become one of many ways of informational exchange, or rather learning exchange, more so than just, for example, passing data in an Excel file.
Hey, Neuralink is going to plug straight into my cortexes, and then I'm going to be able to do the I know kung fu.
I just need the Pornhub plug-in, and away we go.
Here we go. now it's already taken a turn.
Well, I was just about to ask, how are you guys using open source models? But I'm not sure if I'll answer on this one. But like we've talked kind of outside the podcast about different applications that we have of using open source, and we also get a lot of questions from colleagues and friends who maybe don't use AI that much and don't really understand what we're really talking about here and the importance of the difference between open source and these closed source models. Like, let's dive down a little bit for a moment, talking about like what are the different applications that you can use open source for and why you would use it.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, or one of the primary use cases I see week in, week out is, and everyone goes through this realization at different rates, I think. And I think the biggest problem I find with it is that it's the most realizations happen after some sort of an incident. And I'm talking here about the privacy of data or keeping your own data. And so Alex Karp from Palantir, had his rant the other week, and he was talking about the alpha of your business, or what is your edge that ensures that you can keep your market share. And so
the thing worth protecting, the knowledge of your business.
Worth protecting, and that's the thing. And so that's the to me, that's the most important. But very close behind is the privacy of your customer data. Is it what are you sending through Claude, through OpenAI, through Gemini that your customer wouldn't want leaving? They told you about something, and then you're putting it straight back into it, and it's not necessarily public, but it's public enough.
Yeah, I want to pick at this for a bit, because there are different sort of legal and privacy regimes that come with these, but particularly the big platforms, but really any third party provider, right? And one thing I've encountered with a lot of people who have spun up, Claude Pro to do some work with, is they think that they're covered by data privacy protections, and they're not. If you're on business plans or enterprise plans, there are various protections there, but most people aren't doing that.
But
most people are quite exposed.
It's also not up to Google, OpenAI, or Anthropic it's not their responsibility to fulfill your data commitments to your customer. Just because you're protected under whatever agreement you have in your subscription doesn't mean you're then protected. They're not responsible for your commitments under any agreement.
You're responsible with your customers' data that you have in your business.
And that's it. And this is what I see week in, week out. Somebody has a realization that, oh shit, we actually can't send that information out of the walls of our business, for instance, or out of our team. And that then becomes where the discussion about some sort of closed network or closed scenario where we can still use AI comes up. Is that
I see it sometimes in like really, really small examples where someone has exported a report from their main system. It includes like a list of their customers and then maybe all of their contracts that they've got and the pricing of them and who renewed, that sort of thing. And they go, I want to like analyze this spreadsheet just to find out like what's the value of like all of the contracts that weren't renewed last year.
Yeah.
And so then they'll click and drag the spreadsheet into Claude and ask that question. And they're thinking about the calculation of that formula and that one new column and just kind of brushing over the fact that if you look 8 columns to the left, there's the first and last name and date of birth of all of their customers.
And that's why there's generally nothing nefarious about it. That's the thing, is it's just who'd really be able to solve this for me? Claude. And they're only, like you say, they're only thinking about their column, whereas what else is in the data? And again, the terms of service from Anthropic and all of the big providers clearly say, we're not going to use your data for training and all this sort of stuff. But that
on certain plans, because again, consumer plans, they say we will use it for service improvement.
Absolutely.
But also, I think there's a large group of people who've become educated in turning off allowing the model provider to train on their data. But that's not all you have to do to protect the data. Just because it can't be trained in the model doesn't mean your data doesn't go to them and sit on their servers.
That's it. Is it all you've got and everyone has a privacy policy on their website, but also in most service agreements, there is a data protection and IP protection clause that someone has signed on, as your company saying, oh, well, you will retain all of the project data or all of the customer data, and you will store it in a way that is adhered to. The moment it goes to Claude or Anthropic or Google, it is stored as logs somewhere else, and you're in breach.
Well, this is true, but this has been a problem for a long time, right? Like, not just with LLMs. Have you ever considered if you plug in your customer's name to Google search, you're technically in breach?
Yeah.
They've got AI mode now, sure, but like even in the past, same thing. That person's personal information is going into a log file somewhere against your identity.
And so this is one of the biggest, I think, this is one of the ways that people are coming in.
Yeah.
To realizing the importance of having some sort of, and it doesn't need to be a completely sovereign environment, but they need to have some sort of control over the data in and out, and that opens this discussion. These privacy concerns then open that discussion, I think.
So how do you actually do it then? Let's say that you have that data and you want to use AI for it.
5 tiers of rolling your own LLMs. No, I guess there's probably
you could probably you could probably slim it down to 3.
Yeah.
I think 3 is enough. Is that if you call like the proper fourth a VPC in the cloud.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, let's run us through your 3 and see where we.
Well, so again, I go. Running something on your laptop.
Yeah.
Right, and it's all completely contained within the one machine.
Yeah.
All fine.
So you download a model that's open source and you run it on your computer.
A lot of most higher end laptops have a GPU in them. They will run it fantastic.
Yeah.
Then the next tier up is, I would say, you go like a Mac Studio or something where
like some kind of on-prem server.
On-prem server, you run a 32 gig NVIDIA chip in a something with in a machine with a whole lot of RAM in it.
Yeah.
Or you get a Mac, and that's why the Mac.
You're buying another computer to run it on. But you own it.
You own it. Everything stays contained within there.
It's in your network.
And then maybe level 3 is the cloud, the VPC in the cloud.
Well, I was thinking sort of data center, because there's kind of a mid ground there between, full on.
Well, again, your Mac Studios, your Mac Studios also not handling. You need 10 Mac Studios to handle any sort of size, even medium sized 100-person business. You're going to need a bit more chunk behind you. So you then rented a server in a data center.
It's not in your building, but it's kind of like it's in your building.
And you have all the network locked down so that you can have a direct connection to that box.
And it's been a bit controversial recently with data centers in the news, but fundamentally these are just places where computers are, and
that's it.
If they're not these sort of gigafactories that they're spinning up in places like China and the US, the size of a city.
But they've been there. They've been around for 40 years, and being able to rent a server in a data center is part of running any sort of major website.
Yeah, I've worked for companies that have done the hybrid cloud thing, and not huge companies, like 50 people companies that have had a data center as well as an on-prem deployment as well as an AWS presence. And I mean, it's not simple. You do need to hire one or two people that knows what they're doing, but it's not like you're not putting a man on the moon anymore.
And it's also a lot more, but it's again one of the really big advantages of the LLMs is that they can tell you how to do your server management.
Yeah.
Oh, I would hesitate at that. There's only because I've seen some of this stuff go wrong. There was a guy we had who was kind of like a human LLM before there were LLMs, and he had a few outages to his name. He was a lovely guy, but just very confident, often without having all the facts.
Well, no, and that's it. But even, and I sure I suggested it, but even I hit I was reconnecting the fiber network in between my two dev servers, and Claude was telling me to do some things. It was just that I grew up on it that I knew. Oh well, no, we probably shouldn't be doing that, mate.
Yeah. So I was talking to someone this week, highly intelligent person who doesn't work in the technology space at all, and they had installed Claude desktop app on their computer. And then was uploading confidential data into that to talk to it, and said, I've got it safe now because I've installed it on my computer. I'm not using the cloud version. And I sort of just had to explain kind of where the data moves when you click this button, and drew a little graph. And you realize most people just kind of don't know that. They don't understand what happens when you type something into Claude or ChatGPT and you hit enter, where that goes and what actually happens. I think even at the most basic level, we're still making a lot of assumptions that most people know that those companies have their own servers, and then that's where they're hosting their models, and your data has to go there. It's not like it's installed on your computer.
And that's it. It's a great example is that even we're doing it in this discussion. Is we're talking about getting a server in a data center or having a box here. But that's effectively just so that that's where the model can live. And so what we do is from your chat interface or your machine, we send a request to wherever you're hosting the model, and it then does its little thing, and then it sends back its response. And that's effectively what we're talking about. It's just that when it's your environment in using one of these open weight models or on your own box, on your own, in a data center, you can control who has access to that network. Is that when you're sending it to, like your friend was, they thought it was all fine, but it's still sending that data across an open internet to a different server and a different network, and then
that they don't own.
That they don't own
then
or control.
Because you can rent and own space in a data center, but I think the key differentiation there is because you can have two data centers that look the same, but in one of them you own that piece of compute there, and in the other one the model provider does.
That's precisely correct, and that's where I was talking about the fourth tier is that you can then have the same environment for your own company in AWS or Azure or again,
Google Cloud.
Well, you wouldn't do it in Google Cloud. That's a pain to set up.
I've firmly come around on some of the GCP stuff, but at least it's not Azure. I'll say that.
At least it's not Azure.
So Jim, let me ask you, what would you use open source for in your world?
The biggest thing for me is, or what I've realised, and again, we were guilty of doing the same thing, is where we're doing a customer project, and we record absolutely everything, no matter what. Every meeting, every phone call, it all goes into our knowledge base, which is a graph rag with all these different ontologies, and there's a whole lot of other complexity there. But that's all fine. Getting the data is at the moment any of our team put the transcripts into Claude or Gemini to then get information, is that and this is sort of part of the realization I had, is that we've signed an IP agreement about that project, because again, we contract in.
Absolutely, the IP in the requirements.
The moment
we need the system to do this because we make the decisions in our business in this way.
That's it.
That is IP.
And so the moment anyone put that into any of the bigger models, we're in breach of this term and condition in our own contract. And so again, we amended the contract to facilitate it, but it's still just, we need a better practice, right? And so that then becomes, still use Claude harness and still use Claude models, but do it through Bedrock, and we can then control the entire environment. And so we now act, and again, is it for specific things? We use the API key rather than the subscription, and it costs phenomenally more, but we're then secure. And I think that's part of the issue, is not the issue, but because it's our responsibility to do these things. But the subscriptions from Claude make it so easy to use the tool that way.
Yeah.
And so much cheaper.
So much cheaper.
And so that's why everyone went that way.
Yeah.
Whereas it instantly caused this data privacy issue. And so it's literally, it costs us 6 times at least to use the API key.
Sure.
And so that's sending it all within our AWS virtual private network and storing all the data within AWS. But that's the way to do those projects or those tasks. And that's sort of where we've then refined it further, is that because the raw IP sits in the requirements building, right?
I feel like, as we've been talking about this, particularly around IP and like business secrets, alpha, however you want to think about it, there's a voice in the back of my head saying most information that people want to protect is utterly worthless.
Yeah.
And not just being...
No, it is.
I am flippant, but in this particular case, I'm thinking like there are companies like GitLab and some of the Elon Musk stable that openly publish their operating procedures, their findings and their technologies, because their model is essentially we execute better than
that. And again, I
can see customer lists being worth protecting, but apart from that, what is there in a business?
And that's why, again, I love loathe Uncle Elon for whatever reason you do, but you have to respect the fact that he created these rockets, or his team created these rockets and the rocket engines, and they published how to do it the next day. You have to respect that. It's unbelievable, because they know they will get it done better than anyone else. But it's more just that we've signed a contract to protect. And again, the project where we had the realization is that the IP that they were still so worried about protecting is what's causing all the issues in their business.
Yes.
That's another story. But it's just sort of, that's the thing, is that they've decided they have to, or someone's convinced them that that's what they have to protect. Whereas they're better off just delivering a better service and deliver value to the customer. But that doesn't protect me in the agreement I've signed.
I'm not gonna suggest that we should just go in breach of contracts. That's a really good way to end up in front of a judge. I'm just suggesting that the way that we think about what is defensible in a business, again, to that idea that we're still adjusting for a digital world, right? And I think our service providers, all of them, AWS and the big cloud giants included, NextDC and the sort of small data center providers included, they need to be better at baseline protection of what comes in.
Yeah.
Because if you cannot send this stuff to them, then you can't do business. The fact that the stuff probably doesn't need defending, I think is a distraction in this case. Like we worry about private data. Nothing's been private on the internet for a very long time. It's Facebook's marketing.
I agree.
But what could these guys do, given the constraints that we have, to make it easy to use their services in a way that allows us to easily uphold our obligations?
Well, what they should have done from the outset and created a bit more of a data lake for every account, and again,
which I think is what Palantir are trying to push, right?
And that's it. And
that every customer within their own tenancy gets their own servers and their own deployment of open source models that will do that job for them.
Absolutely.
It just seems like that's probably where this goes.
But
that does raise real questions for like the model developers about about how do they continue to be competitive if they're going to be swapped in and out.
Data products for a long time, like data science products from 10 years ago, faced the same constraint. You don't want to hang on to PII, but in order to give a proper customer, like a proper personalized service and to not, misprice someone's insurance quote, you kind of need to retain that stuff.
Well, but then they would give better value. Like that's the thing, is that everyone's, all the podcasts for young women are talking about how all of their listeners are asking ChatGPT all of their medical questions now. It happens continually. Is that if they had just protected that, as a ChatGPT user, like I get a secure storage of all my queries, all my requests, the model could then use that to give me a better response. Instead, they segment it to chats. Yes, it's all still, but the model doesn't use any of it because it's not stored in a way that's secure. They've still got the information sitting there. Is it? And it's they've just gone, oh well, we don't care. I don't know. I just think that would have been a better product. And again, you both know that I've been harping on about that everything should have a rag behind it for way too long.
Yeah.
But I just think the model providers would get a lot more stickiness because I'm not like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago
But they want to train on that data. Like, if we're being honest, that is
exactly what I would do. If I was on the other side of this, if you give me that data and it's not covered by an agreement that says I can't train on it, that stuff is gold to me. I am training my goddamn models.
I'm sure there is far more good data being put into these models every day than there is from 1990 to 2015.
Guaranteed. But that's the thing, is that's why they still are willing to offer a free.
Absolutely. And I think this is where, and it's probably a good educational one for our audience as well, is to me, Bedrock is one of the big outliers in this space, that service that, so for those who don't know, and you guys correct me if I haven't got this one quite right, but AWS has an agreement with a lot of these model providers, but I'll just use Anthropic as the example here, where they host versions of those models inside AWS. And when you have an AWS account and then you use Bedrock, your data goes to the tenancy that you own. It interacts with a model that is hosted just in AWS, and then the results come back to you. Your data is not being pushed back to the Anthropic servers that they can then use and see your conversations.
Yeah, that's that. As far as I'm aware, that's the agreement.
Again, you've got to set it up a certain way. You can also still just get Bedrock to query
to like route it.
Route the open.
And so to me, that is just like one of the most incredible products. And I know Microsoft's trying to come out with their version of Foundry, which has still got some ways to go in this space.
They did have hosted OpenAI for a while, but I think that deal's gone.
No, but now you have to qualify. You've got to be a government or a significant institution, and that's sort of, my brother has been looking into it for his role, and the response they got back from Microsoft is that we're not going to have the compute to handle you until 2027. At best.
I love Microsoft.
But that's it. Is it we're not going to have the compute to handle you?
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big organization till 2027.
Yeah, so it's a big organization, but what's their volume going to be? It's going to be marginal.
That's it. It's just it's completely ridiculous. And who is also at that point where they're looking for the compute capacity from Microsoft?
Well,
from Azure, and again, we should call it Azure because it's easier, or it helps people relate a bit better. But it's still just, to me, the model choice also on Azure, isn't what it is on Bedrock, and that's the thing, is that I can basically get anything.
Well, no, my understanding of the licensing there is it's still very much just a pass through at the moment. They're talking about it being more of a Bedrock product in the future, but a lot of the licensing agreements still is just routing at the moment.
Oh no, but that's it. And that's it. And that's
what I'm saying. Backbone routing has some advantages, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Well, that's it. Is that we're looking at protecting the data, and that's what I really like when you set up the proper Claude instance on Bedrock, and it doesn't go anywhere. Is that you're as closed as you could possibly ever want to be? Again, you've got to have the rest of the DevOps all set up properly and VPC locked down and all the.
And your only real limitation then is cost.
That's
right?
it.
Yeah, but it's a somewhat more controllable cost model that behaves more like CapEx than OpEx for the most part.
For sure. And but it also, what's the cost? Like we all saw what happened to Medibank and Optus and all of these data breaches that have happened in Australia.
Well, to be fair, Optus left a production database with a dev database with a backdoor. So
what's the cost of it? Like, that's the thing, is that sure, they made a mistake.
Sure, the risk-adjusted cost of just doing it the right way.
That's it. If they'd just done it the right way.
And this is something that like I quite like the self-hosted models for speed, particularly if you're doing data analysis tasks. Just it's whippy. I don't need all the smarts of Claude. I just need you to tell me whether this customer comment falls into one of these 50 categories.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Just hammer it out. Come back in 2 hours and you're done.
But also that's where you can get into the open weight models a lot better. Because again, is it Kimi K3's got a lot of hype. Mm-hmm. You're never going to be able to host that on-prem.
Yeah.
Is it like,
I don't think... Was it 14 terabytes, 1.4 terabytes?
But again, I don't think NVIDIA is going to sell you the chips.
Yeah.
It's or that list is going to be pretty long to get on, to wait to get the chip to run a model that big.
But your average engineering firm out of Pinkenbar or something, they're not going to need a frontier grade model.
But that's it. They can put Quen or GLM or Kimi in Bedrock and boom, they're away and protected.
Yeah, I just the only bit of this that gives me any sort of discomfort long term is just conversations I've been having with friends. Like all my friends are all of a sudden being like, "Oh, can you give me some advice around tech? I'm thinking about installing Linux on this machine because it's the age of AI and stuff." Like the person who said that was a nurse.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But they're just the kind of it's installed.
So you told them that yes, Linux is the only way to go. And
yes,
I told them compile your own Arch or you're a pretender. But no, standard advice like, just get Mint or Ubuntu or something. Yeah. Oh no, but I want the real Linux experience. It's like you think the GUI is the experience. It's not.
I'm not aware of the cost of time.
Yeah. Like don't try and do something really complicated. Do something really simple. Get your feet wet. Take it, and that's kind of the point, right?
Here's a Raspberry Pi.
Your friend had that issue where they installed on their machines, they thought nothing was leaving their machine. There is a gulf of understanding out there around how these modern services work, how to make them safe. Like my friend's first thing was, maybe I should set up like a file sharing server so I can share files with my friends. And it's like, okay, legalities of that aside, perhaps opening up a server to the internet and painting a big target, like a discovery target on your machine is not the best thing. Oh, well, there'll be nothing on it, so I won't get hacked. No, but it'll be on your home network.
Yeah.
Which means things like worms and botnets can kind of spread throughout your house, and then everyone's machine can share.
And then back to connecting to your Alexa. All of a sudden, or your Google Home, all of a sudden, the same network, someone can be listening to everything you say.
And like there are, E. Smith of Naked Capitalism has this fantastic quote. Actually, no, it was Lambert Strether. He'd say, if your business depends on a platform, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a reasonable set of assumptions, because this was when media outlets were being deplatformed for being on whichever wrong side it was that day. But in the modern world, can you really afford to do every single step yourself? I think you do need some independence and some sovereignty where it matters, but you can't afford to, like, no man is an island.
No, but this is where I'm again, feeling a little bit like the belle of the ball again, because I grew up doing networking and installing servers and all that sort of stuff. When I was at university, all of it, I've always had these skills. And all of a sudden, now it's all linking back together, and it's really working out for me.
Yeah.
But it's very few people have both sides.
Yeah, and for the people who don't have that, unfortunately, they really need someone, not ChatGPT, to say,
well, me.
Watch out, there's a minefield.
Please inquire on my website. But that's the thing, is that it's the main maintenance of it is going to be what kills everyone.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of where it needs to be really good advice, is it? And again, back to my brother, like they got advised, whereas they could quite easily, you know, and they're doing like really, and it's still, all the data's anonymized.
Yeah.
But it's still personal data about people in their organizations. And they could do it within a cloud VPC quite easily, but they've been given advice to run an on-prem model with a quite low-level open weights model, which is going to create more issues because they're going to have to handle a whole lot of edge cases.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to create better skills and better rules around that, which probably creates more work anyway. And so it really does come down to having an open mind, not just listening to whichever slick snake oil salesman is spamming you that day, and finding out what works best for you at the time.
And this is, I hate to be elitist here, but there's a sense in which modern AI tools are sort of big boys tools, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a chainsaw or a table saw or something, right? It's not a little rubber hammer.
Well, but
you can hurt yourself with this stuff.
Yeah.
But again, like if you really ruthlessly focus on what it is your organization needs to do, the amount of things you need to know, the amount of cases you need to consider shrinks right down, and you can hyper focus on making that efficient.
But it also, and efficient and much more cost effective. And that's the other side of this discussion, I think, you know, is that there's a big privacy issue, but the cost issue then really, really comes into it. And you can pick the right model if you have your infrastructure set up and your data protected.
Yeah.
You can pick the right model for the right job, and then it costs you fractions of cents to perform everything. Whereas it ends up costing, and it still only costs you a couple of bucks using the top of the line models and the external approach, but fractions of cents compared to a couple of bucks really adds up.
Yeah, for sure.
I think going back to what you guys were talking about earlier around there being kind of levels of kind of control of your data and your models is like a really good way to think about it. I think like there's still a lot of like business leaders at the moment who are thinking like either our data is safe or it's not. And then if it's not, let's pay for the thing where it is.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to some kind of tier one construction companies in Australia over the last couple of weeks, and their requirements around AI are pretty much like, we don't want any external model. We don't want our data going to any company that's not outside of us.
Yeah.
Can you set that up? And it's probably for a lot of them, it's a lot more extreme the requirement, and they probably even know that they're even asking.
Well, it comes back
for your
to
data to not even go to another company. Might mean it can't even go to AWS and use Bedrock, which I would say is a very safe thing for them to do.
And again, like having to explain to them that that's not actually what they mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. AWS is a service, but they're still going, oh no, but it's going to another cloud company. Oh no. Yeah, and that's it. This fear that's evolved from it is concerning.
Yeah. And I think we almost need these levels to become a little bit more mainstream knowledge and more clearer, where you could point to kind of level 1, the most secure, and you'd say this is for defense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, level 5 is for, that retail shop that's trying to recommend the next shirt for this person.
Yeah.
And there's somewhere in between, and you've got to be able to have educated conversations there. And I think if you're a buyer of this at the moment and you're looking at some different vendors and this conversation has been a lot to sort of follow, just start out really simply and have the vendor give you a list of all of the companies where your data is going to be sent to when you use their tool.
But that's
and look at that list and just say, am I comfortable with this, or do I have some concerns? And there should be follow-up questions around, okay, I put my data in AWS. How are they able to use it?
That's it. And that's it. I think that's the first one. Ask your technology person, company, provider, where does my data go? And get them to explain it out exactly how you said it. So if it does go to AWS, that's fine, but AWS can't access it, and that works out. Oh well, it also goes to Anthropic. Oh well, that probably is a bit of a problem. Is it customer data? No, it's only our day-to-day internal stuff. if you're comfortable with that, then that's fine.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things there. Have an honest conversation about how much that information is worth to you.
And particularly with your construction clients as well, like they need to have an honest conversation internally about what actually is risk.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just it doesn't leave the building.
Well, the interesting thing is they would have that requirement, but at the same time, you know, before we would even sign a confidentiality agreement, they would email a spreadsheet across which contains IP.
Yeah.
And you'd look at it and like honestly, a lot of these people have been in business for a very long time. They are happy that all of the technologists and the data people are dealing with all the databases and the servers, but then they're happy to email things, and they don't ever really think that email is not like
you've just broken the perimeter.
Yeah, you've broken the perimeter. Like there is no, it's gone outside the network, and it's kind of remarkable to think that in our businesses, everyone has this ability to attach data to an email and just send it straight out of the network.
I'm a huge fan of death to email. I think email is hideous. It causes all kinds of problems. The more you can eliminate email from your organization, the happier you'll be.
Yeah. You should almost have like messaging platforms where you can chat to people, but there's no way to actually store any information.
It's amazing. I think there's a few of these on the market, in fact. But it comes down to people think risk management is risk elimination. It's not. It's management. Everyone reflexively goes, 0 tolerance for risk. Okay, cool. Turn off all your servers, disconnect all your networks, get rid of all your clients, fire all your staff. Oh, you don't have a business anymore. Congratulations. But you're risk-free.
Yeah. You just got to choose the right level for your business and for how much you're willing to spend on it.
And I mean, regulation does make this hard sometimes. The wording can be vague, but at the end of the day, you should be able to assess that. And as long as you can defend it, the government doesn't know when it's assessing either. Right?
Well, precisely. That's it. Is that we were speaking to friends who work at the ATO last weekend, and they were saying like all the new AIML stuff, about who is the beneficial owner of everything, is apparently there's only 100 people who work in that whole department, and so they're not analysing anything. It's phenomenal how small that is compared to the job that they have to do.
For sure.
It's crazy.
I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about some of the cool applications of AI this week. We've had some math applications that have come out kind of this week and on the previous week from Anthropic and OpenAI. And whenever it's a math topic, I tend to throw it over to Alex. So we've had, what have we got? We've got the Erdos conjecture and also the Jacobian conjecture.
Yeah.
So my kind of brief strokes across these ones is there's effectively these kind of theories, conjectures in math. There's also proofs, and these conjectures are kind of, we think that this is how this math works, and we're not really too sure, but because we can't prove it or disprove it, we're going to use that as an assumption into a lot of the future work that we go and do. And a lot of these mathematical, a lot of the math that's being used here underpins a lot of modern technologies that we have, but also the way that a lot of our industries are actually designed. They're often designed around the constraints of what we're able to physically do. So any kind of progression in this space is actually pretty impactful on the world. But what's actually happening here with AI models doing math?
Yeah, so it's worth noting anyone that's not spent time around math doesn't kind of grok how pure it is in a sense. Like if you know something, if you can prove something in maths, it is true. It's not like, true on some days or mostly true. It's
true on the daily matter.
It's true in the platonic sense of the word, right? Like it's actual truth. So people get excited for proofs and because proofs teach us something about the nature of logic and it, as you said, it has all these knock-on effects. Conjectures are things that are widely suspected to be true. They often use the word hypothesis as well, like it's a Riemann hypothesis or the Langland's program or some big names you'll see pop up from time to time. And the Erdos conjecture thing, we'll pull him to one side because he was an interesting character. But it's worth noting that this Jacobian conjecture that they had kind of for, I think, 100 years or so now was a simple relationship about roots of equations, or like ways to solve equations, basically. And it said, there's always a way to solve this particular type of equation. What the LLM was able to do is find a counterexample. And counterexamples are great because if you can find a single way of showing this thing isn't true, then the whole thing falls apart, right? Counterexamples are annoying because, people believe things are true for a very long time. They turn out to
build careers on them.
Build careers on them. But in this case,
but it also gets us one step closer to the truth, right? If we're not losing 87 years of building an assumption on top of a conjecture, and that is eliminated, then potentially it gets us one step closer to finding what the truth is.
Well, and this is some of the controversy that's come out about this particular thing. So they threw Claude, I think it was, at a particular conjecture, this Jacobian.
Yeah, it was Fable 5 at the Jacobian conjecture.
Beautiful. And it came up with an answer that showed that it wasn't true for, I think, numbers or sizes of things greater than 3 and real numbers. And we won't get onto other fields or anything like that. But for the numbers and love at home, for numbers greater than 3.
As we all do.
You guys don't know.
1 and 2.
and 2.5 and because now we're in the, I'm not going to do this. But it's kind of shown that this thing is not true for a very broad class of cases, right? And some of the most important cases. People are cranky though, because we haven't moved closer to the truth. The counterexample didn't come out of insight; it came out of brute force.
Yeah.
And there was another very famous proof, actually.
Where the example of that would be when you get the right answer through trial and error 1,000 times, and then you submit it and you're right, but you can't explain what it is or why it's right. You just know that you were right.
It's why your maths teacher kept yelling at you to show you're working, right?
Yeah. And I didn't want to because it was 3 pages of trial and error.
I've seen this one before. I know the answer. But the counterexample shows it's not true. Cool. We are one step closer, but we don't know specifically why it's not true.
Yeah,
there's no clever theory that led to this.
Insight.
Deep mathematical reasoning, I think it was in the reporting.
Yeah.
That's where they were all upset.
And I think that's a bit salty.
Well, but it is, and you can understand it if you built your career and you've got tenure at a university.
I think it's more than that as well. I think some of these people, they go into this field because there is a fundamental kind of search for truth that is going to progress humanity.
Yeah.
And this just feels almost like an empty,
pulling a number out of your butt.
Totally empty bit of progress.
Yeah. Well, there's a very famous short paper that's 2 lines from the 1800s, and it was something like, there exists this particular counterexample. This is the counterexample. QED. This conjecture is false. So it's not the first time we've had a short to the point proof about a result, right?
And I'm sure people were annoyed at that one too.
Well, it was the 1800s. It was probably someone very respected, middle-aged, and white. No one argued with it, would be my guess.
Yeah, sure. No one's allowed to argue with them, are they? I think the thing for me is, if you didn't want to find a counterexample, why did you point Fable 5 at it? That's the thing, is that as we were talking about before with the exploit gym, and the hugging, getting into hugging phase. This is what they've trained them to do, to find a different approach to things.
Yeah,
it was always going to look, or the models are trained to look for an alternative rather than what
I think,
or if it can't solve it through the happy path.
I think the crankiness is the same crankiness you see from a lot of old greybeard engineers being like, well, this code doesn't look like the way that I want it to look. And it's it's because it's not being generated by the same process.
Yeah.
And if you've done a bit of management, you kind of understand that sometimes people do things a different way, and that's okay. That's very much not how maths works.
It's very much not okay, but we learn to accept it.
Yeah, we learn not to put anyone's head through a wall for putting the commas at the beginning of the sequel line. Yeah, that was a bit of pill to swallow.
Just because you like to comment out parts of your code to test things, well, maybe you should test it in a different way.
Oh boy. boy.
Not the commas in front of the commas in front of your SQL line really is one of those things.
Please don't focus.
But I think the bright side here too is there's been multiple times throughout history where results kind of come out of nowhere. Like I think there's a map coloring thing that was brute forced by computers in the 70s. That pissed a lot of people off because where's the insight? People later reverse engineered it and got the insight because they knew what they were working towards. Andrew Wiles, Fermat's last theorem in the 90s, right? His proof of this like 300-year conjecture was famously arcane, very hard to understand stuff. But over the last couple of years, they've refined the insights that came out of that into things you can just about teach to high schoolers. About really deep connections between like numbers and equations and stuff like that. So cool. Now we know what an example of something that doesn't work looks like. Are there other things that behave like this?
And that's
Can we just tweak the parameters?
That's back to like what Will was saying. If it moves us further forward to the truth,
or at least further away from being wrong.
Yeah,
I'd like to drill in on one of the words here, like that this was found. So the way I think that, like, at least if we're just talking about math, like a lot of the ways that kind of these theories are proven in the past is through some kind of key insight or some discovery where there is some reasoning that occurs. And sometimes maybe not.
No, there's a genuinely active debate here. Is maths discovered or found?
Yes, sure. Sure. Okay. But effectively there is some kind of reasoning that often occurs that connects a couple of different pieces of facts, and we go, maybe there's like a way here and there's like a creative process. And then the other way is, right, kind of this brute force way of doing things. But I think where this is really interesting, just looking at what the world in the future might look like with AI, is a lot of the world that we have now is kind of constrained by humans over thousands of years making decisions based on, is there a reward for the amount of effort that we would put into that thing?
Completely.
And what is really remarkable that we haven't our brains haven't quite adapted to this yet is a lot of the things that AI is doing now that hasn't been done before, like disproving some of these or providing counterexamples, is that the AI doesn't have that trade-off of effort to reward.
Yeah.
It doesn't get lazy. It doesn't get tired after doing a 4-hour workshop and need to just jump to an answer that satisfies everyone. It doesn't get a feeling of kind of fatigue. It goes, I'm going to just continue to explore this space. And what was really interesting, I think, about the Erdos one is the way that it was described by the researchers was that one of the reasons that this counterexample hadn't been found before was because the amount of decisions that a researcher has to make to explore that space becomes so astronomically large that a human brain literally fatigues doing that work and can't really reason across all those, kind of multiplicative, the combinatorial possibilities.
Erdos in general was this, like, he was a Hungarian refugee, heavily fueled on methamphetamine for at least part of his career, just traveled the US with a suitcase, finding interesting people to work on math problems with. The FBI was following him because they thought he was a spy. And he wasn't, he was just a nerd.
Just bumbling around doing that.
And he has these incredible, in fact, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. In the maths world, it's 6 degrees of Erdos. Because he has all these connections. You can usually find a short path to Erdos himself. Random aside, but his conjectures often to do with how to efficiently count large classes of objects, or how big can classes of objects get. And so that, what are the bounds? And so these are things that humans are famously really bad at.
Yeah. And our world is built based on the things that we were good at.
And I kind of, to tie this together, I think what we're going to see is, I'm kind of cribbing from Terry Tao here. We're going to see a lot of the gaps that no one really has the time to go and fill in starting to be filled in, and everything's tightening up.
I think that's going to be the same. Like, that's the same as, like, we were talking about last week about delivering more value to your client, or that's what AI provides. Is that in the math world, we're exploring these possibilities that humans couldn't do previously,
or had forgotten about,
or to, like what Will was just saying, is that because we never had the need to learn about it, we didn't, you know. And so as we evolved over thousands of years, we never had to go down that path because we found a better way first. What if the path is a bit more rough, you know?
I think we should keep in mind it's not the first time we've used information technology for this. Like, there have been maths assisted proofs since the 80s. God, for the last 15 years, there's been some incredible results in science and engineering using large computers to, like, we generated that photo of the black hole by running simulations and looking at the light paths coming back at us, right? That's incredible.
But then look at AlphaFold. You know,
look at AlphaFold.
AlphaFold is a great example, I think.
But the fact that we can do it so much more flexibly now in our native domain of natural language, I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a good thing for us.
But again, these are the sorts of stories that then just get lost in the ether, because this is a really cool, interesting use case of AI that has, again, sure, there's some old grey beard professors that are a bit upset about the way
it's not on a blackboard. It's not legitimate.
But it has now stopped them wasting their time.
Absolutely. And this is, I think, I don't think any mathematician would be upset that the Jacobian conjecture or any of the Erdos conjectures turned out to be false. I think they're annoyed that they don't have a compelling reason why it's false. But I also think, like, if I can tell you where you're going, even if I don't, necessarily give you a map, all of a sudden it's much easier for you to find your way there, right? Rather than just being like, okay, find a random place in Brisbane.
Well, everyone on the theoretical side will be upset, and everyone on the applied side will just be grateful.
Well, and
there's no such thing as an applied mathematician. They're called physicists.
Let's move into a lightning round now. We've got a couple of topics here, just some quick takes on them. So we've also got this week Alibaba kind of releasing at least a preview, Qwen 3.8 Max. This is not yet available for, they haven't released benchmarks yet, I don't think, as from when I last checked. Haven't seen a model card. 2.4 trillion parameter multimodal for the first time coming out of Alibaba. And they're saying that it is beaten every other model except for Fable on their benchmarks.
Again,
Jim.
Well, again, very exciting. Love any open source, open weight model release that is on the frontier or in the zone of the frontier, but it came very quickly after the Kimi K3 announcement, and it reads a little bit of, hey, we have one too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say bring on the pricing wars, and let's see some efficiency gains here. I can't wait until open weights are a competitive advantage in the market, and people offer, either licensed open weights or, quasi open weights or some equivalent there as a price of entry to the market.
Particularly, talking open weights and price. I was talking just briefly during the week about, people tweaking an open weighted model, and so then I give a little bit more value, so then I can charge a little bit more for that model, which I thought was really interesting and I hadn't thought about before. And again, it sort of opens up another source of discussion of it. So again, more open weights, more glory.
I've seen a boom in new businesses starting that are doing exactly what the startups of the last 3 years are doing, but now with open weight models and your own kind of ownership of your own data.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fantastic step forward for this space.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, bring it on, Alibaba.
Okay. Substack, our favorite blog posting platform, has released an AI writing detector, or at least they've integrated. I don't remember who it's from. Did you?
Paladex, Palin something.
Yeah.
P. Something that begins with P.
Something that begins with P, right? And so you can click a button now and see how much it was written by AI. Jim, you happy about this one?
Well, again, no.
But are you ever happy?
But in more that is that I don't care. Like
if it's written by AI.
I don't care if it's written by AI, and B, if you're not utilizing AI as a tool to help you write an article in this day and age, what are you doing? Is it an ego thing? Like, I don't understand the motivation to, oh, well, I don't need AI. Okay, great. That's fantastic. But
I do, because I suck at writing.
But it's also, the way I look at it is there's so much other work around it. Because, again, if you just went, hey, ChatGPT, write me an article on this, you're not getting followers or subscribers on Substack anymore, right? And so because it's not going to be of quality, right? So in order to write something of quality, you have to do so much work around it. And so I've done all this work, and then I've used AI to bring it all together and polish it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're then going to show up in the AI detector as, oh, well, and so then it's as if there's something bad on it. And to me, that's where I found it quite interesting, not only from it, because I don't care if it's written by AI, but as a I guess business approach from Substack, is that surely they want content on their platform. And now all of a sudden you're saying, oh, well, the bulk of the content that's coming on here is bad.
Well, I wonder if they had some internal people who are advocating for banning AI content, and this is the middle ground they landed on.
Perhaps, yeah.
Well, there is a huge amount of writers that are very against this technology, saying it undermines their livelihood. But I understand that technological change always drives this sort of thing. I wish the reflexive answer wasn't to try and ban it or condemn the thing.
That's it.
Figure out how to work with
I just don't know why label it as bad. Because like Dr. Alex Wiesner-Gross is one of the things I read daily.
Yeah.
And it is abundantly clear that his whole newsletter is just get the best things from Twitter from the last 24 hours and put them into the dot points.
Can I just rage for a sec? What about ghostwriting, eh? All these people with newsletters that have been, a newsletter published 3 times a week while being a full-time VC and doing all this other stuff. Like hell you're writing them yourself. Is that okay? Yeah. Publishing under someone else's name? Because why aren't we up in arms about that? We're actually taking credit from a living, breathing human at this point.
I actually think this is going to go away from the button. Like as you publish an article on Substack, there's a check it for AI button. Is that I'm very sure that's going to disappear pretty soon.
Yeah, because I know it was written by AI because I copy pasted it from ChatGPT.
I don't have to check it.
Sometimes I'll actually want to read something that I know is 100% human because there is an art behind that. You can feel it in the words that are written, in the way it's crafted, and there's joy that comes from that.
Sam Chris is my guy. No AI could ever write with him, write like him, mostly because he reads like he's smacked out of his mind.
But I also,
I don't need that from 90% of what I read because me personally, I'm often reading for educational purposes, and if AI wrote it, I don't care as long as the facts are right.
It's the same as I don't want to watch a carbon copy Netflix movie that has clearly been written by AI because every single one of them is exactly the same and terrible.
Mm.
But that's I'm doing that for entertainment. So it's like when you're in the 10% of the situations you're reading for joy, and so therefore you want it to be something of quality. You want it to be something that and not that AI isn't quality, but I also go to those really good authors and writers. Why haven't you got a corpus of everything you've ever written?
Why aren't you amplifying
and training a style, and then AI can do a whole lot of the heavy lifting for you, and then all of a sudden you're putting out more.
I would imagine because they come from a completely different ideological basis as you, Jim. Okay, last topic of the day. Open Router is in talks with Stripe to be acquired for $10 billion US, which is roughly 8 times what their valuation was in May.
These boys are timing it perfectly. Again, is it Ramp? It happened the same week that Ramp came out and said we're going to create a routing product. They've done the heavy lifting. They've done the work. They showed everyone this is what everyone needs. Everyone wants choice of model. Everyone wants to be able to have the one infrastructure and be able to switch between it. They've gone, we've got an offer on the table, we've got to have a chat, we've got to have a good hard look at it and take the money. Like, sure, they could build something better and build it into a higher valuation over the next 5-10 years. Take the money and run.
Take the money and run for the open router guys. I'm not sure what Stripe is thinking here, but it is a valuable thing. I don't see the play.
But also Stripe and eBay as well. Like, there's a lot of work they're gonna, because they announced they're gonna put an offer in for eBay this week as well. Like, there's
PayPal.
PayPal, maybe. Sorry,
PayPal, yeah.
But it's
PayPal makes more sense.
Don't you get all of that for the same price? But there's a lot of
the
work.
PayPal ones are probably a different argument because it just opens up other markets to them and helps them to be able to compete with companies like Visa and
does,
Mastercard.
but there's a lot of work you've got to do.
Yeah.
In order
absolutely.
to get them all to work in harmony, And so that's sort of where I went again. There's a lot of work in the future to get Open Router to be a much higher valuation. Is it if you've got a 10B on the table now, take it.
Yeah. My take on Open Router, I don't quite get it, and I don't quite get it for Stripe either. Take the money and run, in my opinion. When Open Router first came out, I was at the same time similarly trying to build like a bit of a search engine that when you searched in there, it would actually go and search kind of Gemini and I don't think I was looking at Anthropic at the time and ChatGPT, and kind of give you 3 or 4 LLMs and give you the results all at once. With this perspective that AI will get much cheaper over the time was kind of my thinking, and therefore why not compare different results and be able to kind of get the answer. And I looked at Open Router and just thought, like, I could never tell where the value of that business would be from a moat perspective. I find it valuable and I use it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it would be hard to build another Open Router, especially internally if you're a company like Stripe.
There are a couple of counterexamples out there at the moment. This is just the one that everyone globbed onto.
Right. How much would you think it would cost for Stripe to build their own internal Open Router as a product?
Probably not $10 billion.
30 million? And that's it.
Actually, no, because the user base is quite sticky because they're all Python and JavaScript people that don't know dick all about how to actually construct safe APIs. Like these are the LLM bros, the sort of early vibe coder market, right? So there's some
the one thing I'll say I'm happy about is that this isn't an AI company looking to buy these guys and seeing that there's some kind of
the surprise.
Dark data play here. Like I would hate that. I feel like this is a totally different play from Stripe.
Yeah, agreed.
But again, even so, even if it is, that there's a lot of other, it's not that difficult to create all these other reasons, it's still a great reason why Open Router should take the money and run.
Agreed. Okay, well that's a wrap on week 4 of Business Idiots.
Who's your business idiot this week then?
I don't know. It's just sitting right there now that we've said it. Maybe it's Stripe with this
one.
But no, I can't really say that without knowing exactly what their angle is. There could be something far more strategic than what I'm really seeing there.
I'm going to say the Hugging Face sock team because I don't know the details of quite what the hack was.
Maybe it's not the team. It's who signed off on the SOC compliance.
Oh, who's the manager of that team? He can get the slap on the back. Oh, just put it into Fable and see what it says. Guys, just rotate the password.
Actually, I'll just roll back to me for a second. The Substack new AI writing detection tool apparently flagged a lot of the Substack staff's own blog posts as AI written 100%.
So maybe
it might be Substack for this week.
Can I change my vote?
I was going to suggest the US government screwing around, how are we going to regulate AI and all this sort of stuff. Meanwhile, the president of China is just going out and signing a deal with 30 other countries. That was going to be my suggestion to the US government and the business idiots, but now I'm on Substack as well. Like, I think that's
sorry, Substack, we love you, but at the same time, great own goal, fantastic own goal.
Realize what your product is.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right, thank you guys. See you next week.